following announcement has been paid for by the new Howl Order.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, had a chance to watch the film. Most of you have done so as well. We did a film session yesterday that was open to everyone, to the general pub. Moving forward, that will be a Mob Squad and Patreon exclusive. So, again, if you're not a member of one of those two factions, please jump on board so you can continue to get some of that exclusive content. That said, I feel I told you guys this after I had watched the game multiple times. Walking away from the game initially, really disappointed, and you're still disappointed because of the outcome of the score. We won the game, and there's this frustrating dynamic that's at work when you expect to beat a team and expect to beat them a lot to a little, and it doesn't happen that way. And I've been a part of, seasons where we look at a team as trash. I remember one year we beat the Rams. It felt like a loss. I think we beat them like 9-7, and it felt like a loss. I remember Jim Zorn's second year. We won the second game of the season, and all people could talk about was, when are you guys going to fire Jim Zorn? And I remember him getting pissed off about people questioning his job security after a victory. So I've seen, these types of situations before and how things can manifest itself. Yesterday or Sunday was frustrating and disappointing because we expected more from the offense. And, a lot of times as fans, we don't take things into consideration that are important, i.e., first-time offensive coordinator being his own man, right? Calling his own plays. First-time quarterback starting in the NFL as the guy, conditions that aren't ideal, even though for, the first half of the game where all the turnovers took place, there was no really, weather issues. So, moving parts on the offensive line, continuity with players, things of that nature. Logan Thomas hasn't practiced pretty much all summer. Terry missed the last, 2 weeks of camp or the preseason before coming back, the week of the game. Look, at the end of the day, I can sit here and try to make a million excuses for why the offense didn't perform at peak proficiency. But after watching the film, and I told you guys multiple times, I need to watch the film. I need to watch the film. I need to watch the film. I need to see for myself what transpired and how I feel, after watching that. I usually have a pretty good sense of how I feel. Now, this is the scary part about how I feel. I've felt this way before with Scott Turner, right? Where I would watch the film and I would say, hey, it was a thing here, one missed opportunity there, one missed block or missed assignment here, one missed throw there. Oh, my God, you didn't see that guy wide open there. Man, Scott's scheming it up. Guys are open. We just didn't make plays. I've done this before. But it's different because when I was doing that, it was Taylor Heineke or it was, Kyle Allen, or it was Dwayne Haskins, or one of these guys at quarterback, right? So it's different now when you see the maturation of a young quarterback. And watching the film, upon further review, one of the questions I had was, well, is EB scheming it up? Are guys open? Are we calling a bunch of routes down the field that aren't allowing Washington to have opportunities to get the ball into playmakers' hands, quickly? And to that, I say, no. The answer is no. This offense looks good. The concepts are good. Guys are open. There are a couple of things that I saw that I'd like to see them improve upon. We'll get to those in a second. But all in all, I thought EB did a pretty solid job. in terms of calling the game. Now, I would like to see more diversity in the run game. I would, we did a lot of pulling. I don't have any issues with that. As a matter of fact, one of my strongest critiques after watching the film is the actual run blocking itself was not bad. It was not poor. I actually like what we did in the run game for the most part. We just need to be more physical. When EB first got here, you know what he said? Some of these guys just need a little bit more nasty. Remember he said that? That's how I feel watching the run game. Like, you're doing your job. You're just not doing it physically enough. You're getting out physicaled at the point of attack, but you're getting to the block. You're doing your job effectively in terms of execution. Now you actually need to take it a step further and use physical force to remove a guy from the location where you engage and make contact. Too often we're just standing there pity-patting with a guy, and now there's no space for the back. Move his ass. You're coming around and you're pulling with all of this, force, all this motion. You're 315 pounds. You should be crushing this dude that's 250 pounds. Crushing him. Not standing up and stalling out upon contact. But I'd like to see some more under center runs. I'd like to see some more bootlegs, some more moving of the pocket, not just sprint outs, right? So these are some of the critiques. Another strong critique for me is, and I think we're going to continue to see this until they fix it, we need better answers to the blitz. I want to see them put together a game plan. If you're going to go empty or you're going to go with jet protection, with the back in the backfield, and you're going to have 6 guys protecting, and I want to see answers to pressure. Like, I don't want Sam holding on to the ball. I don't want him throwing to the wrong side of the field. I don't want guys running 12-yard routes when there's all-out pressure coming. I want better answers to the blitz. That's one of my, biggest critiques in the past game from, a structure standpoint. But all in all, I thought it was not as bad as we all depicted it to be. Even the offensive line, I think you guys are really giving the offensive line, and you've been doing this since week 1 of the preseason. So I'm not surprised that you guys think that this offensive line is the worst in football. Somebody actually said to me in the comment section, this has to be the worst offensive line in the NFL this year. And I'm like, bro, we're 1 week in. I know you didn't watch all 16 games. Clearly you couldn't have, because you couldn't have thought that we were the worst offensive line if you watched the Giants on Sunday night. There's no way you think our offensive line is worse than theirs. But that's how fans are. They overreact, right? I've been telling y'all this since week 1 of the preseason when they gave up sacks against Cleveland and a safety, and you guys were ready to jump off of a cliff. And I'm like, it really wasn't that bad. It's not as bad as you guys think, right? There were plenty of times where Sam had infinite amounts of time and space and opportunity to deliver the football, okay? Some of these, the batted ball, was on Sam. 2 or 3, I told you guys, 3 of the sacks were on Sam, right? I think this offensive line isn't as bad as people make it out to be. You know what Andrew Wiley is at right tackle. To me, he's the weakest link on the offensive line in terms of pass protection. You know what you got to do. Like, you got to help Andrew Wiley. And it's not on every single snap. But what's going to be the snap where he needs help? You can't really decipher. You don't know. So just help him, right? I watched that film, and it was always, and again, I've done this before, and that's why I'm a little leery, right? Because I've been here before where I go, man, it was a penalty here that killed a drive. There was a missed opportunity here that killed a drive. It was a turnover here that killed this opportunity. We moved the football, but here this happened. Like, think about the first drive of the game. We're moving the football, right? And then you get a couple of plays that just don't go the way. You get an incomplete pass. Logan drops a pass, right? That kills the drive. He catches that ball. It's a different drive, right? But he drops a ball. The Cardinals come with all-out pressure. I think there was I don't know if there was a penalty on that possession or not, but we were backed up already. And they came after Sam, and he dumped it down to Curtis Samuel. And he wasn't going to get the first down, right? Which is why I say I want better answers against all-out pressure. I want teams to pay for coming after Sam because I think they're going to do that more often. But you had a drive where we're moving the ball, and then John Bates gets called for OPI. I don't like the call, but it is what it is. You know, these are the things that, you know, we got a great drive. I thought the best drive of the day is the drive that Antonio Gibson fumbled on. Sam was in a rhythm. There was balance on that drive. We were running the ball efficiently and effectively. Sam was in his pocket. He was making great throws on that drive. And then Antonio Gibson fumbles, right? The second half, in that third quarter in particular, the weather was just gross when we had the ball. It's like the weather waited until we got the football. There was no rain really until the Cardinals kicked their field goal, and then the rain just started coming down in buckets, right? Bucket loads of rain. And that was pretty much until we got to the end of the third quarter. So our 2 possessions in the third quarter, pretty much rain, you know, soaked ball, pause, and you know, just having to try to navigate that, not wanting to make a mistake. And they were really conservative running the football during that period. But I actually think this offense was really close to scoring the 27, 28, 30 points that we scored 20. Now, granted, the defense assisted very heavily, I may add, in the 20 points that we did score. You know, 10 of those points directly came from the defense setting us up. I mean, really spoon feeding us an opportunity. But that's what we want. We want the defense spoon feeding us opportunities. It shouldn't just be, well, we need to be scoring 30 points individually on our own merit away from the defense. No, we want the defense. That's what makes a good football team, is that the defense is handing you opportunities and you have to take advantage of those opportunities. We were 2 possessions away from getting to 30. Think about it that way. 2 possessions from 30. So Antonio Gibson doesn't fumble. We're going to score on that possession. Now, touchdown, field goal, don't ask me. I think we're going to score a touchdown, personally. We were in a great rhythm on that drive. So we were this close to almost scoring 30 when you think about it in that context. But I think there's an overreaction right now to the struggles of the offense in 1 week, I may add. I think we're going to be fine. Sam did some really good things. The offensive line did some really good things. There's improvement that can be done with every single member of the offense. But I liked a lot of the things that I did see. Sam's toughness in the pocket, his pocket awareness, his ability to manipulate the pocket, throw with trash around him in a muddy pocket. I thought he did some really good things, man. There were some throws where you go, wow. That throw to Curtis Samuel on the sideline, are you kidding me? That throw to Cole Turner where he manipulates the pocket. I talked about it yesterday, where he manipulates the pocket, slides, resets his feet, and throws a dart. Yeah, Sam's legit. That touchdown throw, the first one of the game, are you kidding me? Could he have stood in there longer? The protection was excellent. Could he have stood in there and allowed Jahan to clear for an easy walking touchdown? Sure, absolutely. But he still made a hell of a play after, escaping the pocket to his left. Could he have hit Diami on the opening possession of the game for a walk-in touchdown? Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty sure that Diami, and I said this on the film breakdown, he's not a primary read on that play. He's supposed to be a distraction to open up the comeback, which wasn't open on that side because the guy that was supposed to run with Diami came down and crashed on Terry. So he was essentially being double teamed and nobody went with Diami. And that's not supposed to happen. That was a busted coverage. His eyes weren't trained to look for Diami on that play because that guy's not supposed to be open. The play isn't drawn up for Diami to get the football. The play is drawn up for Terry on that deep comeback to get the football. And if he's not open, you go immediately to Jahan. down at the bottom of the screen. And that's what he did. So there's definitely a lot of room for improvement, but I don't think the offense was that bad like some of you think. And even defensively, a lot of you were, killing the linebackers. I didn't think they were that bad. Sorry, not sorry. I don't think they were that bad. Did they make any plays? No. Could they be better? Yes. But I like some of the aggressiveness from Cody Barton attacking the line of scrimmage. I want him to be even more aggressive. Put your foot on the gas pedal. All gas, no brakes. Right? So I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged by what I saw. I think they're only going to get better. If that's where we're starting from, I feel damn good about the prospects of this offense and this team, for that matter, moving forward. I thought that it wasn't as bad upon further review after watching the tape. There's a lot of good things you can build upon. There are some great building blocks here after watching this team in week 1 with the all-dub Deuces. All right, so anyway, I digress. Let's get to our next segment, and that's in other news. As we turn the page now, away from week 1, new week, really Wednesday starts the new work week, and let's start talking about our next opponent, the upcoming game, week 2, first road game for the Commanders against the Denver Broncos. So we'll take our first look at the Broncos here in a bit, but before we do that, we heard from a bevy of players today, Andrew Wiley and Jahan Dotson and Charles Leno Jr. and Kendall Fuller. But most notably, we heard from the head coach, Ron Rivera, and the starting quarterback, Sam Howell. So we talk about some of the things that those two had to say. Obviously, injury reports are released on Wednesday. The first time we'll take a look at it. Remember, this is going to be an abnormal week here. This is my last day of live content for you. I'm going to leave you guys episodes for Thursday and Friday, but obviously they'll be pre-recorded. So with that said, understand that there won't be no updates to the injury report. You'll have to keep up with those things on your own, but we'll have everything else available in those episodes. So just make sure you're mindful of that. But with that said, let's take a look at the injury report for week number 2 as we head in, and let's see what the good guys have going on. We know about Quan Martin and his concussion. He's probably not going to play this week. It's rare that a guy enters the concussion protocol and exits it in the same week. It doesn't happen very often. So the likelihood is he won't play in this game. Curtis Samuel, hip. We had no idea that there was anything there, but I don't think it's going to be anything major. Again, I've always told you guys, as long as I've been doing this, Wednesday is the day either you're out or you're limited if, you got something that's nagging or bothering you. There's no reason for you to go hard on Wednesday. That's install day. You can get your individual work and then just eyes and ears, focus in on practice, see what's going on, and be very, very cognizant of what's being implemented with the game in regards to the game plan. So Curtis Samuel being limited doesn't bother me one bit. Chase Young, neck. We're not going to do that this week. I know some of you are fatigued already. We're only 2 weeks into the season, so I'm not even going to belabor that point. They did ask Ron about Chase, and he did speak about it a little bit. We'll talk about it, but we're not going to do that song and dance. Either he's going to play or he's not at this point. Limited in practice with the neck. Sam Cosmi, shoulder. Full participant, not worried about Sam. Terry McLaurin, toe, full participant, not worried about Terry. At some point, even though those injuries still exist, at some point they can just take Terry off this injury report because Terry's going to play, right? And as long as there are no setbacks, we feel really good about where Terry is. He looked good on Sunday. You wouldn't have even known that there was any ailment if you didn't know better. So I'd say that's a pretty good, clean injury report. Let's keep it that way. Now we go to the Denver Broncos side of things. Greg Dulcich, tight end that they drafted last year, that's an athletic dynamo, injured his hamstring on Sunday against the Raiders. He's going to be out. They've already announced that he'll probably be out 2 to 4 weeks. They probably don't want to put him on IR yet. but they'll see how he's progressing, and if they feel like IR is the best move for him, then they'll probably do that. But he's not playing the game, so that's good news for us. There's one big name on this list, and I'm pretty sure you've already identified it. We'll talk about him when we get there. That's what I'm really concerned about. Frank Clark, hip, limited today. I expect Frank Clark to play. Jerry Jeudy is the guy that I was referencing when I said there's one big name on this list. He had injured his hamstring in the preseason, and they felt like he was going to miss the first maybe couple of games. I was saying, look, I don't need you to miss anything more than just the first two. Come back in week 3, man, and tear shit up as far as I'm concerned. But miss me, right? I don't like the fact that he was limited in practice today. I would love to have seen a DMP, but limited doesn't mean he's going to play, But I didn't want to see him practicing this early in the week. So Thursday will be key. If he practices tomorrow, even on a limited basis, he's trending in the right direction. If tomorrow's a DMP, we got his ass, and we're in the clear. But that's one to keep an eye on, because one of the things that they clearly were missing in week 1, they didn't have any speed at receiver. We'll talk about Denver here in a second as we get to the first look. But DJ Jones, defensive tackle, knee limited in practice, and Riley Moss, rookie corner out of Iowa, abdomen limited in practice. So right now, I'm going to just assume all of these dudes are playing until they're not. That's what I'm going to do. All right, so let's get back to what was said today at the podium. And Ron talked about a number of things. First of all, Ron has a very extensive history going against Sean Payton, doing battle with him, having been in the NFC South for a number of years, probably 9 years. I think Ron was the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. And I think he overlapped with Sean Payton for all 9 of those years. Maybe, because Sean Payton got there like 06 or 07. So he literally coached his entire career in Carolina against Sean Payton twice a year. So he's very, very aware of what Sean Payton is as a play caller and a head coach. And so he's like, look, man, he's got answers to the answers. He's got answers to the adjustments. Like, this dude's super smart. He's going to have his team, well prepared. And so, it's going to be tough to try to confuse them, especially being that he's got a veteran quarterback who, knows the ropes. And so it's going to be tough. And he's not wrong, right? The Broncos are still figuring some things out on offense. We'll talk about that here in a second. But I felt like they aren't that far away from, making some plays offensively. So Ron is very wary of, what they're capable of. He talked about the defensive line and Montez Sweat in particular, and the growth that he's seen from them in year 4. And he, talked about them kind of having a feel for how the guy next to them is going to rush, because there's that familiarity that comes with playing in the same scheme with the same players over a period of time. So, almost like an unwritten, language, or, things don't have to be said, and you know exactly what that guy is going to do. So, he talked about Montez finishing, and, Jack's been talking about that all offseason. Montez himself has been talking about that all offseason, so that's not anything new. He also talked about Sam Cosmi in particular. He talked about the offensive line and, wanting to get some things done potentially with players, contract-wise. And he talked about Cosmi really playing well in week 1, and, kind of went over the top in his praise of Cosmi. And I told y'all before the season started that if you ask me who was one guy that could have a breakout season, rarely do you say an offensive lineman. How do you even quantify a breakout season for an offensive lineman? Well, for Sam Cosmi, for starters, how about playing in 17 games? That would be a first for him. So you start there with Sam Cosmi, but I think guard is a much better position fit for him. And I've seen really good things from him. And Ron was impressed with him in week 1. And he's like, look, he's the highest drafted offensive lineman that we have, that we, spent draft capital on as a group. So It's good to see him playing at the level that he's playing at. Because they restructured and reworked the deal of offensive tackle Charles Leno Jr., which freed up $6 million. So in doing that, a lot of people started trying to draw conclusions and inferences like, hey, are they freeing up some money to potentially extend somebody, i.e. Cam Curl? Maybe. We'll see. But Ron also talked about, Sam Howell and, just looking for continued improvement, liking some of the things that they've seen from him, but, understanding that it's not all on Sam. And, so often as fans, we are guilty of just putting everything on Sam. Like the first game of the season, I didn't want to see Sam throw the ball 30 whatever times. And obviously towards the end of the game, it balanced out tremendously because they stopped throwing the ball almost exclusively and went to the run. But at one point, Sam was trending towards 40 pass attempts. And I wasn't cool with that. Like, I wanted to see more balance. I don't want them going out there and showcasing Sam and having him, throw it 42 times. Unless it's a necessity. We're down big and we got to start chucking it around the football field. Otherwise, I want to stay relatively balanced, right? I don't want him out there throwing the ball 37 times if he doesn't have to. So Ron's like, yo, yeah, he's going on the road, the Mile High, for the first time in his career and dealing with that altitude and all that good stuff. But he's not going alone. He's got playmakers by his side. He's got skilled guys that we trust. Like, he doesn't have to do everything on his own. And that's the beauty of what they've built. And that's what they were trying to build. When I kept talking about building the infrastructure and then dropping the quarterback in, a la Seattle in the early 20 teens, or Buffalo in the late 20 teens, right? Early 2020s, where they kind of built that football team. They had all this talent. Tyrod Taylor finally got them to the playoffs, and then they dropped Josh Allen in the middle, and they took off running. Russell Wilson literally drafted him. They went out and got Matt Flynn. They thought he was going to be the starter in 2012. They had all this talent. Then they just dropped Russell Wilson in, and he took off running. That's what they've done here in Washington. There's enough talent here for Sam to just kind of manage these, the game, get the ball to playmakers, make some baller throws as we saw him do in week 1, when it is called for. But there's enough guys around where he shouldn't have to, carry the load or shoulder and the burden that load or shoulder the burden, right? He shouldn't have to do that. And that's what Ron was essentially trying to communicate, is like, he's not going in there by himself. We'll see what happens, man. It's a tough environment. I hate going to Mile High. I truly do. I hate it with a passion. Sam talked about, his performance in week 1. He's like, look, I'm past that. Really, I did some really good things, some things I could clean up. He talked about some of the sacks. He even, said something that I've been telling you guys, like, you can't run out of bounds 1-2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. That's technically a sack, and you lost yardage. That's a dumb play. You can't do that. He's like, yeah, that's just dumb. I can't be doing that. I'm glad he knows. Like, and I'm pretty sure they told him, hey, Sam, don't do that shit again, bro. You get that close to them sidelines, there's nothing. Just chuck it out of bounds. What are we doing? Like, Derek Carr is notorious for doing that, and it drives me nuts. Like, how stupid can you be to know you ran backwards 7 yards? Now you turn the corner on the defensive lineman, but you're not going to make it back to the line of scrimmage. You're a yard or two short of the line of scrimmage. Why would you take a sack and a loss of yards when you can just throw the ball out of bounds without penalty? Chuck it out of bounds. That's a teachable moment, and I expect him to be better in that department moving forward. He talked about the fumble, like, hey, that can't happen. That's on me. He said it after the game, so that's not a surprise. We already know, and I love the fact that he's taking culpability for the sacks. Like, hey, that's on me. Even if it's not on him, hey, that's on me. The fumble's on you. The fact that Andrew Wiley got beat by a spin move isn't on you. But I love the fact that you're willing to take that on the chin and say, hey, that's on me. I got to be better. he talked about Mile High, and he's like, yeah, I've never been there before. Never played in altitude. I've heard stories. We're going to see what it's all about. He's excited about this upcoming opportunity on the road. He's like, I love playing on the road. He talked about the physicality of week 1. And he's like, yeah, it was a physical game, but I ran the ball a lot in college, so it wasn't too much different from that. But he said, coupled the fact that it was a super physical game, and it was week 1, and it made for me being a little bit more sore than normal because everybody's sore that first week because you get hit so much more. You didn't do it in the preseason, right? You didn't get hit a ton in the preseason, so the morning after wasn't as rough. Now you playing an entire game, you get beat up a little bit. Yeah, you feel a little bit different than you did for the last, 3-4 months. So he's like, yeah, but I got some good work in the last 2 days. Body feels fine. I'm ready to go. So he's young, man. I don't worry about young guys. You bounce back so much quicker when you're young than when you get older, obviously. So he's a young dude. He'll be fine. He's talking about getting into a rhythm and establishing a rapport, sitting down, watching film, exchanging comments on what things can be done to improve the working relationship between he and Terry and Logan, some missed opportunities in the game, things of that nature. That's what you want to hear, guys putting in that extra work to maybe make the difference next time when they run a route. Maybe it'll be successful because they were able to talk and figure out what could make this thing work, what didn't go right the first time, and what we can do to improve next time we do it. So, and he talked about the deep ball. Like, we know that's one of his specialties. That's one of the things he does extremely well. He threw that deep ball to Terry. That thing was right on the money, but obviously Terry was tackled. And it doesn't really matter how it happens. You would much rather Terry get the stats and make the catch, but it's the same thing. Terry doesn't catch it, you get pass interference. Terry does catch it, it's the same thing, right? So he said, I missed some opportunities to drive the ball down the field. Obviously, he's thinking about that Diami play in particular, right? That was one. There was another one. I thought that where he took the sack, where he didn't step up in the pocket, Jahan was breaking open, and you got one-on-one. You gotta have that one. Right. So there were opportunities. He acknowledged that. And so I think he's going to be much better in this game. Now, this is a much better defense. The Denver Broncos are no joke. But I like our chances. I like our chances going into Denver and being a little bit better. Because that's all I'm looking for each week is that the offense improves and gets better, takes steps in the right direction. It's not going to be a finished product probably until you get closer towards the midpoint of the season, but you want to be taking steps collectively each and every single week to get there. And I think we're going to see one of those steps being taken in week 2 against the Denver Broncos on the road. So heard from a number of players. Nobody said anything truly impactful. Jahan did acknowledge the fact that there was a bit of disappointment in the locker room from the offensive side of the football in terms of not really showcasing the type of things that they thought they would be able to do in week 1. So, he talked about that kind of left a bitter taste in their mouth, and they're looking to kind of, get some get back, so to speak, and play much better in week 1 and carry their own weight. That's essentially what you're looking to do. Is the defense literally strap the team to their back in week 1. And as an offense, you just want to do your part. You don't want the defense feeling like they got to carry us at all times and that there's no margin for error. You want them to be able to go out and play ball, and you want the offense to be able to supply them with a little bit of ammunition so that they can go out and maybe be a little bit more aggressive. So, again, we heard from a number of guys, but nothing really noteworthy. Let's get to, but I will say a lot of people were talking about the altitude, and Kendall Fuller is like, it only affects you if you let it affect you. Or was that one of the offensive linemen? I think it might have been one of the offensive linemen who said that, but it's real. Just so we're clear, that shit's real. So my wife is from there, and she's like, no, it's real. It's real. There's a difference. And I've heard many players talk about it hit different out there. So, they're talking about, the nutritionists getting them prepared. You can do all of that shit you want, be overly hydrated, which is what usually happens is you find yourself being very fatigued quickly because of the altitude. So hydration does help, but it's still tough. I liken it when you first get out there and you start running around. I liken it to that excitement that you have at the beginning of a big game, and you're so amped up and your heart is racing so rapidly that you go out there and you expend so much energy in the first like 2 to 5 minutes of the game. And in the first break in the action, you realize, God damn, I'm tired. Like, I'm not usually this tired this soon, but because you had so much nervous energy, you're extremely fatigued so quick and you have to calm yourself down. That's kind of what it feels like. I would imagine. I've never been there. She keeps telling me she's going to take me, but I'd imagine that's what it feels like, listening to people describe what it was like. Anyway, let's get into the first look at the Denver Broncos. We're at Empower Field at Mile High, week number 2, 425. So just a couple of quirks from this game. The Broncos will be celebrating the 25th anniversary of their second Super Bowl. And so all of the alumni and the guys that were present for that Super Bowl will be back at the field, and they will honor them at halftime. So there's going to be an extra added buzz in the building, going to make it a little bit tougher on us because there's going to be a little bit more excitement. John Elway will be back, and, Rod Smith and Terrell Davis and all of those guys will be back in the building, probably Shannon Sharp. So yeah, that's going to add some juice. They're going to be wearing their white uniforms. Normally they wear either blue or orange at home. They're going to wear the whites to commemorate the second Super Bowl. So we're going to be wearing our burgundy uniforms. Normally we wear white on the road because the home teams usually wear solid colors. So it'll be a little bit different. It'll look a little bit different. So that's an added bit of juice for the Broncos. So something else we'll have to overcome in that football game. But enough of that. Let's talk about the Denver Broncos. And this will be brief because it's just our first look at Denver. But having watched that game against Vegas, and that's family business, so you got to be careful with that. But having watched that first game, what is apparent to me is that Russell Wilson is looking to avoid mistakes. Okay, last year, he was mistake prone. He wasn't looking to run. He was going to stay in the pocket. That's where a lot of the sacks came from. Right now, it is abundantly clear that he's in much better shape. He's back to running around and being mobile and disruptive outside of the pocket. He was 27 of 34, 27 of 33, something like super efficient is what I'm trying to convey to you, right? That if you're 27 of 33 or 34, you're hovering around 80%. That's somewhere in the 76, 77% completion percentage range. I mean, but it was only for like 177 yards or something like that. So he's not pushing the ball down the field. And that, to me, is from a lack of speed. There's no Jerry Jeudy, right? There's no more KJ Hamler there. They went from having all this speed to having not any speed with Jerry Jeudy being out of the lineup. So I think it is imperative that Jerry Jeudy don't play, right? If he plays, it changes their offense drastically because now you got a guy that can stretch the field vertically. And I just like their offense being so closed in where everything is, 10 to 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage and in. So that's what it was. It was a quick, which we know. If you watch Sean Payton over the life of his Saints career as the head coach there, everything was out of the hands quick of Drew Brees, and then when you start to fall asleep, that's when they push it down the field. That's when they hit you with the seam route, up the field. But for the most part, everything was short to intermediate, and that's how they would pick you apart. And you saw a lot of that with Russ, especially him getting out of the pocket. The receivers were not the star of the show on Sunday. The tight ends had 10 targets or 10 catches and like 14 targets. The running backs led the team in receptions on Sunday. Samaje Perine had 4. Javonte Williams had 5. No other position group had more than 6. The tight ends had 6 total. So the receivers right now aren't a huge part of the offense. I'd like it to stay that way. And with Greg Dulcich being out, that's going to be one loss at the tight end position. So they can be a bit, I feel like, limited in what they can do if there's no Jerry Jeudy, which is why that's going to be a huge one to watch this week, because I like our chances. Even if Jerry Jeudy plays, I like our chances, but I like them even more if he doesn't play. But what's abundantly clear to me is that Russ is back to being Russ. Now it's just about him getting more and more comfortable. Just like we want Sam to be more and more comfortable in EB's system, it's all about Russ getting more and more comfortable in Sean Payton's system. But he's not turning it over. He's mobile again. So if you come in reckless, he can break contain and run for 7 or 8 yards and break your back on 3rd and 6. If you're not careful, he's throwing on the move again. That's not something he did a lot last year with regularity. He's looking like the Russ that was once upon a time, a playmaker and in the MVP discussion almost every year at the beginning of the year. So I saw flashbacks of Seattle Russ, and that's dangerous, right? The run game, anybody that knows Sean Payton knows this misnomer of Sean Payton is that, oh, no, they throw the football a ton. Yeah, they like to throw the ball, but Sean Payton likes to run the ball and remain balanced, so they're going to run the football. And they ran it solidly against the Raiders. Nothing eye-opening, but they did average over 4 yards a carry. Javonte Williams is back. He looked good. And you got some IJP Ryan offsetting him. So they got stuff out there. You're going to have to stop the run, or they'll feed the run game, and then they'll go play heavy play action fake off of it. And there will be opportunities if you don't slow the run game down first. Defensively, they're flying around, man. This is what they do. They got, a bunch of guys in that secondary that can be playmakers. You have to pick your spots. You have to be careful. You can move the ball on them. You can have some success, but you got to get it out of your hand. Jimmy Garoppolo went 27 or like 24 of like 28. Like, he was highly efficient, was Jimmy G. Like 20 of 27 or something like that. 23 of 27, something to that effect. But it was a lot of quick passes, get it out of Jimmy's hands. Now, there were times where Jimmy held on to it and allowed guys to make plays, but what I noticed was the middle of the football field was open a ton. He did a lot of damage to them over the middle of the football field, whether it be the Jacoby Myers, who did most of the damage. He did hit Devontae Adams a couple of times, and he hit the tight ends a little bit, but a lot of damage over the middle of the football field. So hopefully Washington is taking notes and able to exploit some of those openings in the defense. And here's the good thing. Week 1, we really didn't have a ton of film to study and say, hey, here's some of the looks they're giving us. This is what we can expect. When we do this, this is their counter to that. Now we have a little bit of something to watch. And vice versa. They didn't really know what to expect with Sam and Eric Bieniemy as play caller. They could only watch Kansas City film and kind of figure out what we were going to do, maybe watch some preseason stuff, see what we like to do there. But now they have film on us as well. So it'll be a cat and mouse game. We'll see what happens. Denver's tough on defense. I don't have to tell you that. This is going to be a great test for our offense. If we can go to Denver and score 27 points offensively, and I don't give a shit how we do it, whether the defense supplies us with 10 points, like they did against Arizona, or if we do it on, the offense does it on their own merit, it doesn't matter to me. If we can get 27 points, and again, understand who we are. All right. Until they show us something different, understand who we are. The first to 20 is probably going to win this game. Who are we kidding, right? Let's just hope it's us. Last time we went to Denver, I don't think either team made it to 20. I think we lost to them 16-10. I think it was either 16-10 or 17-10. Something to that effect. So it could easily be one of those games again. Hopefully we're on the right side of it this time. We weren't the last time we were in Mile High. But anyway, I digress. That's your first look at the Denver Broncos. We will go behind enemy lines on Thursday's episode, and then you'll, of course, get the program. Is it the program? Whatever I call it. I don't remember, but you'll get my the game plan. That's what I'm like, the program, the game plan, and then, of course, my prediction for the game. So let's get to social media maneuvers and see what you guys have to say. Shout out to everybody joining me. I know it's late. My schedule's all funky. I've already told you guys it's going to be crazy the next, few days or whatever. Today was crazy. So I appreciate y'all kicking it with the kid this late. Even though it's late, it's still going to be great. So I appreciate y'all kicking it with me. Brandon Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Brandon writes, Logan Thomas just dropped another ball. Free Cole Turner. Logan Thomas is going to be fine. He's going to be fine. You guys are really hard on Logan, and I know what it is. It's less about Logan. It's more about just wanting to see Cole Turner get more opportunities, and that's okay. But it doesn't have to come at the expense of killing Logan Thomas. He had one drop in the game. Like I've seen people like when you don't like somebody, it becomes a game of telephone, and every time you bring it up, it starts at one, then it's, man, he had 2 drops in the game on Sunday. Then the next time you tell somebody Logan Thomas stunk, man, he had 3 drops in the game on Sunday. Then the next time you tell them, man, he had like 5 drops in the game, man. They need to bench him. Like, let's keep it a buck, man. He had 1 drop. All right. It was an ugly one. First, possession of the game. Wide ass open. Probably you're in plus territory if he catches that ball, turns up the field. There was nobody around him. But look, it was 1 drop. The other ones were highly contested. Guys were draped over him, getting their hand in the cookie jar. Those weren't easy catches. Okay, those weren't drops. You got to give credit where credit is due. Arizona was right there with him. That said, I too believe that Cole Turner needs more opportunities, but I still think Logan Thomas serves the purpose. Some of you are ready to just banish him to the bench, and you don't want to see him on the field. And I'm like, that's crazy talk. It's crazy. Christopher McLaughlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Chris writes, hey Lou, hope all is well with you and the family. Likewise, Chris, always good to hear from you, and I hope you and yours are doing splendidly. 2 questions. What are your thoughts with Logan getting twice as many targets as Terry in the game? And why do you think we did not have more balance by running the ball more in the first half of the game? Sometimes with coordinators, and we heard this from Scott Turner last year and the year before that, but particularly last year, you get into, to me, this is offensive coordinator 101. Like, that's why Scott Turner wasn't a good offensive coordinator, because as an offensive coordinator, you can't lose sight of what you're doing. You can't get into the rhythm of the game and forget, oh, I just called 12 passes in a row. You can't just say, oh, well, I was in the rhythm of the game and didn't even realize I called 12 passes. You should be keeping track of the plays you're calling and understand how the game is going. And look, there's nothing wrong with you calling 12 passes in a row if the team that you're playing against is the #1 rush defense in the NFL and they suck at stopping the pass. Yeah, torture their ass through the air. That's what you're supposed to do. But it's rare that you find that to be the case. And I just think Eric Bieniemy looked at the Cardinals and he said, I think we can throw the football against them. They got a young secondary. They had, really young corners out there. I think Marco Wilson is like a 3rd-year corner, maybe 2nd or 3rd-year corner. And Keitrell Carter is a rookie, right? Like, they felt like they could probably take advantage of some of those guys in the secondary. But I think that's where the imbalance came from, feeling like, hey, we can move the ball on these dudes through the air. And truth be told, we didn't have a lot of success on the ground early in the game. So it made it easy for them to kind of just say, hey, Sam's stroking it. Guys are open. Let's just go with that. But I'm a big proponent of, you got to run the football, especially with a young quarterback like Sam. You just don't want to overwhelm him and just have him dropping back. And if you think the offensive line is a liability right now and they're still putting the pieces of the puzzle together, then you don't want to keep dropping them back. Eventually, something bad's going to happen if you think they're a liability. So, that's the only thing I could think of is that, we weren't really having a lot of success on the ground. We weren't having any really good hits. And the only thing worse than not running a football is running it repeatedly when you're not gaining anything off of it. Because if you run it on 1st and 2nd down and you get 1 yard and 1 yard, now you're in 3rd and long, 3rd and 8. Like, that's not good. It defeats the purpose of running the ball. Running the ball is supposed to put you in a third and manageable situation. And we weren't getting 3 or 4 yards on each tote, early in the game at least. So I think that's where a lot of the imbalance might have come from early on in the game. Then, obviously the numbers were skewed a little bit because we had the ball for 2-minute drill possessions, not one. You're not running the ball in the 2-minute offense. You're throwing it exclusively for the most part. So that didn't help Sam's, passing numbers, in terms of the amount in the first half either. But as far as Logan Thomas getting twice as many targets as Terry, I didn't love that. But we always say the tight end is the best friend of a young quarterback in particular. And so we knew, all you needed to see was the preseason to know that Sam was going to go to the tight ends. Every time he was either in trouble or he was pushing the ball vertically, a lot of times it was to the tight ends in the preseason, right? Cleveland game, John Bates wide open on a corner route and he drops it. That same Cleveland game, he had a nice hookup down the field to Cole Turner. I think he had 2 good hookups down the field with Cole Turner in that Cleveland game. The Ravens game, the 3rd and 17, those are 21-yard pass to Cole Turner. You see the theme here. So he's shown us already that there's an affinity to get the ball to the tight end position. So I'm not shocked by that. Remember what we were told in the offseason, that this is a very tight end centric offense and that the tight end role will be expanded this year. And so we weren't lied to, obviously. But with that said, you got to get Terry more involved. He can't have 2 catches. I said the same thing about DJ Moore with the Chicago Bears. You can't have your best receiver have 2 targets. That's all DJ Moore had, was 2 targets in the Bears game against the Packers. I don't think Terry had just 2 targets. I think he had 4 or 5. I think he had 4 because I think Logan had 8 targets. But that's not nearly enough for Terry. Terry should be touching it at a bare minimum of 4 times, not having 4 total targets in the game. So they got to get that fixed. I just think that receivers in general, Samuel, Jahan, Terry, Diami, I think those guys need to touch it more in general. They're the playmakers. They're the dynamic guys with the ball in their hands. Those are the guys that can create big plays. They should be touching it more than Logan Thomas, Cole Turner, the running backs, so forth and so forth. So I think overall they just need more opportunities, not just Terry, but all of the receivers. But we were told that this offense was going to feature the tight end position, so I'm not surprised. Abner Durant, my guy Ab, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Ab writes, my man Lou, Ab, still unbeaten, bro. I told you, you are the ultimate good luck charm. When you show up at the game, good things happen. Good to see you again. And I need you to save it for a big one, man. The next time you decide to touch U.S. soil, I need you to save it for a big one, man. All right. Says, still unbeaten, but this was a close call. It was. As they usually are. I don't think you've been a part of too many blowouts here, Ab. A real life experience so we can improve and polish details without suffering any damage. That's what it's about, is getting better, fixing the things that you did poorly or incorrectly, all the while winning football games. That's what the good teams in this league do. Figure it out while winning. Much easier to convey the message of fixing this and doing this better when you're winning. Hey, Scotty, stand up. You are now the newest member of the MOBB mob. Y'all know what to do. Show Hey Scotty some love. Welcome him with open arms. Show him how we do it over here in the MOBB. Hey Scotty, welcome to the squad. Glad to have you. Christopher McLaughlin, my guy Chris. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, hey Lou, what do you think is the #1 underlying issue that is causing Denver's offensive struggles? Besides Wilson's play, and how would you have defense how would you have the defense maximize opportunities to capitalize? So last year's struggles were, I thought a lot of them were on, Russell Wilson and some of the play calling, and you could tell they had a first-year head coach and he was probably in over his head. A lot of delay of games, play calls coming in late, shit like that. This year, I just think it's Russ having to acclimate to the new offense with Sean Payton and just getting comfortable in that scheme. Obviously, you lose Tim Patrick in the offseason for the second consecutive year. Jerry Jeudy's dealing with a hamstring injury. That's going to hamstring your offense, right? So that's part of the problem is some of the weapons aren't there. Now they're going to be without Greg Dulcich, their tight end, right? So that also slows the growth of your offense. But I think it has more to do with the fact that Russ is just brand new with this offense and he's still learning and putting the pieces together, but he looks a lot sharper. He looks more spry. He's definitely back to the guy that is mobile and can hurt you if you don't keep your pass lane integrity. And so I think that, you make a mistake here or there and they could easily score 23, 26 points. But if you keep everything in front of you, you tackle well, he's settling for the checkdowns. He's not forcing the ball like he did last year. He's not holding on to it extremely long, which is why the running backs had so many catches in this first game. If you can keep everything in front of you, make tackles, I think you can get off the field on third downs, and I think you can keep them under 20 points again. But once they figure it out, once Russ figures it out and they get some of these weapons back, I wouldn't be shocked if you see them scoring some points here because Russ looks like he's starting to dial in. How can you maximize it? To me, get pressure on Russ. Frustrate him. Because one thing, and this goes back to Seattle, when you frustrate Russell Wilson, he'll take bad sacks, running around trying to make something happen. He'll force a throw or two and give you an opportunity to pick off a pass or two. You can get Russ to destroy a drive single-handedly by getting after him sometimes. Because just like Sam and these quarterbacks that are playmakers that don't know when to say when sometimes, you can find yourself in a whole heap of trouble. You've run backwards 15 yards. There's nowhere to go. And now you're not even in a position to throw the football away. What do? You take a sack. What was 2nd and 8 is now 3rd and 23, right? You can get Russ on some of that stuff. But to me, the biggest thing we have to do is take away the short passing game. Like, don't give it anything cheap or deep because that's not what they're about right now. But they want to kill you. They want to be surgical with the short passing game. Limit run after catch, and I think we're going to have a really good opportunity to win that football game. So they didn't turn it over at all in week 1. They were very efficient in terms of, getting the ball out of Russell Wilson's hands, staying on schedule, but they just struggled to sustain offense because when you're nickel and diamond, it doesn't take much for your drive to be stalled out, for you to, have a penalty or a batted ball, and all of a sudden, it was 2nd and 8, now it's 3rd and 8. And that check down to the running back 4 yards short of the first down, you got to punt. So rally, tackle, keep everything in front of you. Don't give up any cheap ones over the top. I think we'll have a really good chance. And bring that same third down defense that we've been, wielding for the last year and a half or so. Bring that same third down defense. Commanders Chaplain Rev Rashid Fry. Stand up. You know what it is. We in the building. Been a member for 23 months. Almost 2 years. Writes, blessings, nephew. And thanks for being realistic. Sam will be fine. Him and EB still figuring out their niche. It's only the first win, and they put up 20. Again, it was disappointing because I was expecting 90 points in week 1. I wanted to beat the Cardinals by 90. I was talking crazy. So, yes, I was, disappointed, and so were a lot of you. Because, again, we still have PTSD. I know we toasted to the start of the season, leaving the past in the past, moving forward, thinking positive thoughts, but a lot of you still are scarred. A lot of you immediately go right back to last year and Scott Turner and same old Commanders, and it's not the same old Commanders. You haven't even given them a chance to see. I mean, if we're doing the same thing 7-8 weeks in, okay, then you can say that. You haven't even given them an opportunity to grow. to figure things out. Nope, same old Commanders. They did it in week 1 again. Same Commanders. We'll see. All right, we'll see about that. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, B-Rob, 19 for 59, AG 4 touches and a fumble. If we get more pedestrian run performances, could JT 28 be in play for Washington? No. You're not going to trade. This is the problem that teams have in acquiring Jonathan Taylor. You not only have to trade draft capital, the Colts have made it abundantly clear they're not going to just give him away. They've already said, hey, we're looking for either a first or something that amounts to a first. So they really want the same deal that the 49ers gave up in getting, Christian McCaffrey, where it was a bunch of 2s, a couple of 3s, a 4, 5, that kind of thing. And a lot of teams are like, no, we ain't giving you that shit. Because Christian McCaffrey is a do-it-all, all-purpose dynamo. What did he have against the Steelers? 22 carries, 162 yards, probably another 4 or 5 catches for 37 yards. Like, he does everything. That's not Jonathan Taylor. He's just a traditional in-between the tackles, first and second down type of back. Can you throw it to him? Yeah, in the screen game. You can throw him, a flare out of the backfield, but he's not running routes and catching the ball and breaking dudes off and none of that shit. That's not who he is. So I'm not giving up all that stuff for him. And then on top of that, you got to pay him. That's the problem in Indy right now is he wants to be paid, and they already told him we ain't paying you shit. So, no, he's not even on the radar. Abner Duran, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Ab writes, double up, thank you for doubling up. Ab writes, remember I was expecting a 40 burger, Lou. Who wasn't? I mean, I wasn't expecting a 40 burger. I thought we would get to the 30s, though. And I would have been satisfied with the defensive performance that we put up. I would have been cool with 27 or 28 because they didn't score a touchdown. So if we don't help them with the 2 turnovers that netted them 10 points, if they just scored the 2 field goals on their own merit and it's 27-6, I'd have been cool with that. That's total domination, like the Texans game last year. That's what it would have felt like. Hey, I want 30. We didn't get it, but we dominated. We didn't sweat at the end. I'm cool, right? But that's not what we got. So, yeah. Some people were looking for a 40 burger. I was talking reckless. Hey, we better beat these boys by 90. No more Colt McCoy. They traded for Josh. We better beat these boys by 90. And then you scored 20 and you barely eke by them. Yeah, it's a little disappointing. He says, well, I still am. All in with Sam. I believe he'll be our next franchise QB. All the conditions are here. I couldn't agree with you more. You know how I feel. So we're right there in lockstep, Ab. Co, stand up. You know what it is. You are the newest member of the MOBB mob. Y'all know what to do. Show Co some love. Welcome him to the MOBB with open arms. Show him what it's like to be a member of the Mob Squad. So glad to have you on board. You're just in time. We're just revving up the engine. Plenty of space. Glad to have you on board, Co. Welcome to the squad. Frankie, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Frankie, writes, if we keep calling these gun runs in the offense, maybe we should just change our name to the Washington Bullets. Good one. Good one. One of the things I thought we were going to get away from with Eric Bieniemy coming on board, I was so excited in the first preseason game because we were deploying a fullback and Sam was under center. I thought we were going to get away from so many gun runs. And yet here we are. Our primary choice of run is the gun run. If we had 32 runs in the game, 26 of them were probably of the gun variety, maybe 28 of them. There weren't many under center handoffs. I'd say about 6, 5, 6, or 7 of them in the game. But, everything is out of gun, man. I would really like it if they cut that in half and got under center. That the play action is a lot more efficient under center. I think that the offensive linemen have a better track under center. The back, I think, has a, as because in the gun, you're not running towards the line of scrimmage and assessing the defense. Literally, you're standing in place, and then as the ball gets to the quarterback, you literally take one jab step, take the ball, and now you're off and you're running. Like, you don't have a chance to assess the line. Whereas when you're running to get that rock, you're 7 yards deep. If you're in, if the quarterback's under center, and as you're going to get that handoff, you're assessing the line, you're assessing the defense, and you're able to see, where can I hit this? Do I need to press before I cut it back? Can I cut it back immediately? You're getting to see what's in front of you. I don't feel like you get to do that out of gun. You get the ball, and immediately now you're approaching the offensive line, but you've already got the ball in your hands, and they're already coming after you. You know what I'm saying? It's a little bit different. I'm not a big fan of gun runs. I think there's a time and a place. And there were some cute gun runs in the game. Don't get me wrong. There was one where Sam ran over to his right, handed the ball off, and then the run went to the left, right? And it was like a little trap, type of action with it. And that one popped. I think it might have been Curtis Samuel who took that carry and got like 7 or 8. It was really nice. I like stuff like that. There were a couple of nice runs in there from the gun, but most of them you're like, all right, pull the whole left side of the offensive line, tackle and guard, pull. Logan comes across, cuts the backside defender, and now your guard goes in. He's got the kick out block, and then the tackle comes and he's leading you through the hole, right? A lot of that. Slow developing, but if you're going to do that, those guys got to come around with some power, be more physical at the point of attack. Anyway, Red Wings 01. Stand up, you know what it is. Been a member of the mob for 11 months. Wait. Who? Got to hit that year mark. We almost there. Caden Stearns, another potential big loss for Denver. Caden Stearns, I believe, is a safety. I don't know what impact he has, how good he's been for them. I'm not going to even sit here in front. But look, I want all the help we can get. I don't turn down any offerings. If he's a impactful player for them and he's potentially out, sign me up. Sign me up. Rocky D, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, how do you feel about Jets might be acquiring for Jacoby? Is it worth the trade for picks? Jake will be our number 2. Would you settle for that? So I said this. A lot of you didn't watch, and I think I'm going to upload a short because I talked about this already. But a lot of y'all don't watch the overtimes of other games that don't involve Washington, so you might not have heard me say this. But in the moment, directly after the Jets game, I literally said, if I'm the Jets, I'm calling Washington. I said, better yet, if I'm Washington, I'm picking up the phone and I'm hitting up the Jets and I'm contacting them and initiating the conversation. Hey, I see y'all got a little problem on your hands. I got one of the best backup quarterbacks in the league. Look like you could use some help. What you trying to do? Sam's the guy. You got Jacoby on a 1-year deal. If you can flip Jacoby Brissett, who's on a 1-year deal for some draft capital, what are we talking about? Move him quickly. He served the purpose already. He helped Sam get to this point. He's been a great mentor to him. He's been another set of eyes in the offseason and, to this point of the season, and that's great. He helped organize those offseason workouts. He's been a great teammate. He's going to be gone next year. If you can get something for him, get something for him. They're desperate. And the best time to take advantage of someone is when they're desperate. Why do you think so many people invest in jewelry, specifically the wedding industry and the funeral business, right? As morbid as it is, people are very emotional. When you're emotional, guess what you do? You are impulsive. When you're impulsive, you are liable to be taken advantage of. And unfortunately, people take your grief and try to upsell you. Oh, your loved one deserves the best. Hey, they're dead. I don't need to pimp out this casket and spend $80,000 on a casket when all their carcass is going to do is rot in there and they're going to be bones. But they're going to sell you on that shit. And if you're not in your right frame of mind, they'll get you. You're so excited. You know, this is the woman of your dreams. And they're going to sell you. Oh my God, you got to give her the best, right? She deserves the best, right? And you're like, yeah, she does. Well, look at what we have over here. And they're going to upsell you. And if you ain't thinking smart, you came in with a budget and you end up spending double that. The Jets are desperate right now. They're emotional, like Carl Thomas. Strike while the iron's hot. Damn right I trade Jacoby Brissett. Because in my mind, Sam's the quarterback. I ain't tripping. If we got to go to Jacoby Brissett for a long period of time, if it's a 2 to 4 week stretch, Jacoby's the man for the job. All right? I'd hate to have to go to Jake Fromm. I'd hate to have to do that. But if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. But just know, if we got to go to Jacoby Brissett for any reason this season, again, if it's for a long period of time, if it's just for a week or two, you can survive. But if we got to go to Jacoby Brissett for 4 weeks, the season's probably done any damn way. More likely than not. More likely than not. Again, how often is it that you sign a journeyman backup quarterback and have a chance to flip him for draft capital? How often? He's not. I guarantee you Jacoby Brissett is not on this roster next year. And you got a chance to get something for him? You could get a third round pick for him. Think about that for a second. You could potentially get a third round, maybe a fourth round pick for Jacoby Brissett. I'm not giving him away for like a fifth or a sixth round pick. You don't want him bad enough. Again, what this is about is taking advantage of a desperate Jets team. Desperation reeks right now. And if they're truly, this is all you got to say if you're Washington. Hey, you got my number. I want a third round pick for Jacoby Brissett. When you serious, hit my line and hang up the phone. They got your number. If it comes to that, and it could happen as soon as this week, right? You let them know where you stand. You draw that line in the sand. And then if Zach Wilson goes out there and throws 2 picks, gets sacked 7 times against Dallas, and they scored 3 measly points, and he looks just like the Zach Wilson of last year and the year before, that phone will ring on Monday. That phone will ring. Hello? Oh, okay. Yeah, that offer still stands. Yeah, third round pick. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Let's make it happen. That phone will ring. All right. If they get desperate enough, just let them know where you stand. Do you really think that this organization is forward thinking enough to take Jacoby Brissett, who's on a 1-year deal, who won't be here next year, and flip him? No, they're thinking, hey, we might win something this year. We need Jacoby Brissett. These guys aren't thinking about the future like that. I said the same thing about the Lions. Like, hey, man, you signed Teddy Bridgewater in mid-August. If the Jets call you, what difference does it make that Teddy Bridgewater is on your team and you think, hey, he could help us at some point? F that. He's Teddy effing Bridgewater. He's a career backup. We know what he's capable of. If you don't move his ass for a pick, I'd move Jacoby in a heartbeat. Or as a wise man once said, I'd move Jacoby Brissett so fast it'll make your head spin. You'll get knocked the F out like Mike Tyson. I'd move his ass so damn quick, you wouldn't even know what hit you. That's the last super chat. Thus, that is it for me, your man, Louie T, tonight on the Command Post Live, or Commanders Nightly Lose Live. Remember, keep in mind, last time you'll see me in an active capacity. Everything will be pre-recorded. So if something happens that changes, clearly I won't be able to speak to that because it's not me recording it that day. But you'll still get the Thursday episode. You'll still get the Friday episode and my prediction for the game. And what ultimately I've decided to do is my wife has been adamant that I just go and enjoy myself. So I'm not going to work. But what I'm going to do is Monday when I get back, we're going to get after it on Monday. And so it's 2 Monday night games. So I'm kind of trying to figure out what the hell I want to do. But I want to go live Monday as soon as I get back. I really, truly do. And I want to go live and talk about, what I saw in week 2. So I'll figure something out. But if it's not Monday, it's definitely going to be Tuesday. But at some point, we are going to talk about the Denver game. We're going to have a stream dedicated to just the Denver game and what I saw and what you saw, and we're going to talk about it. So, but it won't be Sunday. I'm just going to enjoy my trip and come back refreshed and ready to hit the ground running. So anyway, I digress. Rocky D. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Rocky D writes, seems kind of personal about that wedding analogy, LOL. Did you get upselled? Nah. I mean, because I already knew, I knew what. So again, I always think about everything, and I look at it from all perspectives. And again, this is my psychology background. I'm always overthinking things. Sometimes it's a gift and a curse. Sometimes I'm doing too much, and either my wife will have to say, bro, you're doing too much right now. Or I'll catch myself and I'll be like, bro, what are we doing right now? Like, just make the purchase or just do this or just like, why are you doing all of this? Just make it happen. Right. But oftentimes me being hypercritical puts me in a position where I'm not vulnerable, where I'm not allowed to be taken advantage of. I know the game. All right. I know the game. So, and not because that I know everything. I listen to a lot of people, a lot of people who are in the game, or a lot of people who are well-versed in different, avenues. And when they're giving game, I listen. So I understand what's being done. Anyway, I didn't get upsell, man. I actually got a really good deal on mine. So I felt really good about the purchase. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Commanders Nightly News. Y'all know what it is. Post up. Take command. I'll see you guys next week. That sounds crazy on a Wednesday, but yeah, I'll see you guys next week. And this ain't the last time you'll hear from me, so I don't need to say all of that stuff like you're not getting another video from me. So I thank you guys for joining me. It was late tonight, and y'all still kicked it with the kids, so I appreciate y'all for that. Until next time, y'all have a good one. God bless, and good night.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20. He's gone. He's gone. Touchdown.